Hello everybody, this is a Cane Creek double barrel inline shock. All things considered, pretty high-end piece of equipment. And today I'm going to go at it with a reamer, two actually. And the reason why I'm doing so is because I am still unable to make a proper mounting hardware for my cross-country bike, and I am, too dumb to source something from someone who's actually competent. So instead of buying something new, I intend to press in some bearings into the shock eyelets here. But before doing so, I need to make the eyelet here a little bigger than it is currently. So this is the shock in question, as you already saw. Nominally, the eyelets on this kind of a shock are 15 millimeters across. Actually, I think it's 15.04 millimeters, something of an inch, because they are meant for half an inch DU bushings inside, or half an inch mounting hardware. Anyway, into each eyelet I intend to press in a bearing, which is 688 in size, which is 16 millimeters on the outside, 8 millimeters on the inside. And the outside bearings are going to be with a flange. Unfortunately, I didn't find those outside bearings with a rubber seal, so kind of sucks to be me. Anyway, this shows the first problem with this kind of a mod, because these bearings are tiny. Technically speaking, their static rating is about 130 pounds or about 55 kilograms. So 3 of these should suffice to, support my abundance. Unfortunately, there are leverage ratios and other things like that to contend with, and I have a little bit of an experience with something like this because I've done a mod similar to this one years ago, although I used smaller bearings, and those bearings did self-destruct. So I need to be prepared that even if everything goes smoothly, I'm going to be one shock short in my possession. The second problem that might arise is that if there is any oil channel or any sort of technologically significant hole anywhere around the eyelet, here or here, then I'm screwed. I'm going to destroy the shock. Now, I don't think there is anything, although this port over here, is it visible? I hope it's visible. This port over here is precariously close to this eyelet. However, I'm only going to shave off about half a millimeter of material. I should be fine. Although there are shocks out there where there are things around the eyelet, so such mod may not be possible. Anyway, the third problem I can see from this vantage point is that if, and I'm going to be doing this by hand using these, if I don't make the hole straight, it's going to be skewed or ovalized or something like that, then this is going to be utterly and completely useless, and I'm going to destroy a pretty high-end piece of equipment. So let's crack on. And here. So here we are. This is the beautiful soft vise I've made for myself. Now I need to let go the air, because if something explodes, that wouldn't be optimal. So let the air go. And the question on your mind should be, what is the diameter of a hole I'm going to be trying to make here? The answer is, I don't know, because fitting bearings is not something I can do. And I've tried to educate myself, and after educating myself for approximately 20 seconds, I decided to try 15.85 millimeters with the diameter over here, because the bearings have an outside diameter of 15.9. So I'm going to have a little bit of an interference fitment on the outside of the bearing, which I hope is going to make them rotate smoothly, and there's going to be secure fitment here, and there are going to be no issues. However, if you ask me whether I know what I'm doing, no, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's lubricate with a tool, and now we start with the smaller reamer. Now we're going to be making the hole progressively bigger. Now I'm going to shut up, because obviously this is traumatic enough. I honestly don't know what I'm doing. And there you go, this is the finished product. I am actually astonished how easy all of this was. A little bit time consuming, but nonetheless. The holes for the bearings actually turned out pretty well. Although I did need to use a little bit of a silicone tape, because this one, the upper one, came a little, I wouldn't say loose, because there is no play over there, but the bearing can fall out. So in order to make it stick and remain in the hole, I have used a little bit of a silicone tape. But other than that, everything seems to be working nice. If you're wondering what's this shim doing here, it's because the space between the flanges on the bearings would work out 12.8 millimeters. And nominally there's 12.6 millimeters on the shock mount, so I needed to take out that little slack, and on this actual shock it's actually 12.6 millimeters. Anyway, let's install this to a bike and see what happens. So I've spent quite some time on this bike, on which I have installed my mutilated cane crick. And I have to report that nothing out of the ordinary happens. The shock just works. There are no creaks, there's no play anywhere. Everything is pretty silent. It works just as you would expect. So I'm going to claim that this is a preliminary victory on this particular project. We'll see how it goes. Obviously I can't vouch for a longer term reliability, because longer term hasn't happened yet. However, before I'm going to shut this video off, I'm going to explain myself, because as much as I belittle myself for the comedic effect, there is a pretty good reason why I did what I did, although you might disagree with me. And I am being chased by a storm, because there have been some transient storms being forecasted for today, so I might need to shut off the camera any second now. The problem with this frame is that the upper pivot and the lower pivot are not centered on each other, and in order for the shock to function correctly, you need an offset an offset bushing on either side, or at least on one side. I didn't yet measure because it's kind of difficult to measure, and in order to order some custom bushings I would need to have this, well, at least on a tenth of a millimeter. I needed to even move one of those spacers to the other side in order to avoid the shock being compressed at an awkward angle. The original DT Swiss shock, which was here, was using an universal joint on each pivot. However, that wasn't transferable to the inline, and in order to use this one, well, I need some sort of a workaround, hence what I've done. So what I'm going to do now, apart from riding the bike a little more, once the desire strikes me, I'm going to turn custom spacing sleeves or shims or whatever going to be needed in order to make a pretty mount for the shock, because as you can see I'm using kind of ugly stainless but nonetheless disgusting shims, which I procured from a hardware store, and well, it's ugly. It's functional, there is no problem with this, but it's not pretty. Anyway, I'm going to turn those sleeves. I'm going to add some sort of rubber O-rings in order to make the mount a little bit more flexible, and I'm going to call it a day. Provided of course this thing doesn't explode on me. Anyway, I hope you've been entertained. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I estimate 3 minutes, so I'm guessing it's 20. And I really need to get going because the storm I am escaping from is gaining on me. So, see you in the next video.